Well, hello there. Happy Monday, everyone. So this week we are continuing on chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the chapter called the Yoga of Renunciation. And I realized I should say why I focused on this. The act of renouncing is when we get that feeling. Here's how it feels in the body, right? Because everything we're doing, we're trying to bring back to how do we conceptualize this idea in our body and in our feelings? Because we love our feelings. They're so good to us, or they are good for us, I should say. Even when they don't feel great, they are there for a reason. They are there to be clues and indicators for us. And it's when we disconnect from our feelings that bad health starts to happen. So getting into this idea of renunciation, which could also be said as letting go. It can also be thought of as release. It can also be thought of as liberating yourself from the confines of life, structure, demands, whatnot, is when we allow our subconscious brain to take over. It's when we relax. It's when we get real creative. It's when things get fun. Sometimes they can get a little out of hand, but that's why we practice moderation. So with the question this week of what burns closest to your heart, summer for me has always felt, I think maybe just because of our cultural upbringing of, going to school during the year and then having summer off, to me, summer has always felt like a time to kind of reset. It's like the year's halfway gone, even though we do kind of fiscal planning or maybe more life planning at the top of the year. Now we're halfway through, and it's another opportunity to say, what is it that I want to be shifting? Is there an opportunity to maybe launch and put a little more effort into things with the natural heat and energy that's all around us? So utilizing the energy of the natural world, which is the sun being closer to us, remembering that we are animals who absorb that energy, and using it to advance in the ways that we want to, which means sometimes in order to advance, it's like my kind of favorite saying is, you get 100 pennies to spend every day. They get spent no matter what. Thinking of it in terms of like your time and energy, but you don't get any more than that. So in order to spend your pennies, spend your energy in a new way, you've got to stop spending them in a different way. And sometimes it's not an equal exchange. Sometimes to do something new requires that much more time and effort, especially just in the start, in the upstart phase or in the learning curve phase. And so you've got to really clear your schedule from doing other things, or you've got to really say no to going to dinner with that friend who's having a disaster for the 80th time, or saying no to another work commitment, saying no to making plans for the weekend, whatever it is. So moving into our story here, last week, I'll reread just because it's short. We have Arjuna, he's on the battlefield, and he says, "You've praised both renunciation and the yoga of action, Krishna. Tell me now of these two, which is the better path?" Renunciation and action. These are the two we're dealing with. And Krishna, who has come alive from his post as the charioteer and revealed himself as being the Lord, said, "Renunciation and yoga both lead to the ultimate good. But of the two paths, Arjuna, yoga is the more direct." Us direct doer type creative ladies, that's why we're keying in on this, or that's how I key in on this. "The true renunciate neither desires things nor avoids them. Indifferent to pleasure and pain, he is easily freed from all bondage." So being willing to do the hard thing, to face your fears, to not avoid nor desire a specific outcome, but to be willing to step in fully into that space of potential, to be the leader that you are, to be fearless in the face of unknown. Fools say that knowledge and yoga are separate, but the wise do not. When you practice one of them deeply, you gain the rewards of both. The state reached by true knowledge is reached by yoga as well. Both paths lead to the self. Both lead to selfless action. So now we take this idea of true knowledge as being, I'm relating that to kind of this idea of like renunciating yourself from action. The state reached by true knowledge is reached by yoga as well. Yoga being the path of action. Both paths lead to the self, where we all are happy and centered and in our true heart space. Both lead to selfless action. So you have to get to yourself first, right? They lead to the self. And then once you've found yourself, it's so much easier to be in your own aligned flow space and be able to give back to the world. So here's where we're moving on today. And this is why I've put the Eiffel Tower behind me. Because it feels like the kind of week where we're going to be able to maybe start to really gain some traction on things, gain some traction on goals, get really, really close to, even if it's just an understanding of the goal, get really, really close. This is the question, what burns closest to your heart? And it's hopefully not heartburn. It's a separate thing. Email me if you got that. It is hard to renounce all action without engaging in action. The sage, wholehearted in the yoga of action, soon attains freedom. So that's the key paragraph that I'm focusing in on today in this idea of what burns closest to your heart. Renunciating things, releasing things, letting go of things so that you can really, really get close to what feels true. For me, I didn't get through a to-do list that I wanted to this weekend. And I ended up having a little too much fun on Saturday night with some friends, which was great. And it's so fun to connect to, older friends in that way. And I know that it's something I had to go through to experience. I allowed myself to, I was like, well, not getting much done tomorrow. We're having fun tonight. And in recognizing and in allowing myself to be in that really present space, I could wake up and go, yeah, no, I have a lot of things to get done this week. And now I am behind on like my home things, things that are, no one in my work life will know that, that I didn't vacuum out my car. And that I didn't paint the woodwork in my house. But I will know those things. So that was me depriving the path to myself. The paths lead to the self so that I can be in a better space of selfless action. So it's hard, back to this chapter or this paragraph, it is hard to renounce all action without engaging in action. The sage, wholehearted in the yoga of action, soon attains freedom. So allowing ourselves, I always think of it this way, allowing ourselves to do the back and forth, allowing ourselves to be like, well, this is where I am. I'm going there. I'm going to be in it. I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to try to make it something else. And then recognizing how can I set up myself next time so that maybe I don't go quite as far and I stay closer to my own natural alignment. Okay, this is a long video today, but I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you at 5 o'clock for class. I hope that you invite some other creative, leader-minded lady friends and email me if you got any questions. See you soon.